Welcome to the Style My Mind podcast. On this show, we decipher the secrets, tips, and guidance of fashion and psychology with the world's most inspiring people. Our mission is to unlock the power to become the best version of yourself by turning their wisdom and knowledge into practical advice. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Danette Haag, inspirational speaker and advocate who has redefined beauty and strength through her journey. With a powerful story of resilience, Danette brings insights into how fashion can be a tool for self-expression, healing, and empowerment. I am so excited to talk to you today. Welcome, Danette.
Thank you, Jennifer. So good to be here.
It goes straight back to you. I'm so grateful to have you here, and your story is so unique. So could you maybe share a little bit about your journey and what led you to become a speaker and advocate for your resilience, for your path? Just tell us a bit about your journey.
Yeah. So my journey started when I was only 10 years old, and I grew up on a farm in Iowa, the middle of the United States, middle of nowhere. And we were having a 4-H meeting at our house, which is just an organization for young people, youth, to come together, and especially in the rural community. And we learned things like how to bake and how to like have livestock, and all the little things that make life on a farm important. And so there's 27 people in our house on our farm in the middle of nowhere, and there had been an odorless and undetectable gas leak coming from our furnace. And my dad was actually standing at the furnace when it happened. And no one had, or they hadn't put in the odor so that you can smell the gas leak. So my dad didn't smell it. None of us smelled it. We were actually, during our meeting, we were learning how to make cinnamon rolls. And so all we could smell was that baking cinnamon, and we were having so much fun. My mom turned on the water to make coffee, and the water heater ignited the fumes that had filled the basement. And it became, like a bomb ready to go off. And we heard it coming at us. A second later, it hit us, this big, huge ball of flame. And so I was burned 70% of my body, including my face, my entire face. I had scars covering my body. I wasn't supposed to live. I was on a ventilator for a while, and it was just a hard road coming back. But when you have I was such a happy little girl, and I was so accepted in every part of my life. And then in one instant, everything changed. I was fighting for my life. And then I was fighting to find me again. So once I did get out of that painful place that the burn unit was, burn injuries are just extremely physically painful. But even worse was going home, and I didn't even have a home to go to, but because it was our house. But it was how do I find myself again? Because everybody treated me different. And even now it's been, oh my gosh, 43 years. My scars are still with me. So they're new to people when I meet them, right? And so opens up that injury all over again. And so it's really hard to heal past something that's so visible when people have a reaction to it, right? So even looking in the mirror, I avoided it. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but not even wanting to see yourself, because life has gotten so hard because of our insecurities, and I wanted it all to go away. I wish I had a magic wand. I prayed and prayed and prayed for somehow those scars to magically disappear. Obviously, they didn't, and it's just finding my way back to finding me, rediscovering me through this scar-covered body that I had. It was a really long journey. And it came in parts and pieces. I think we heal from whether it's trauma, whether it's, an illness diagnosis, whether it's just some self-deprecating words we learn how to tell ourselves, or words that somebody else told us. Healing from it comes in layers, and it comes in bits and pieces. And I guess my story isn't any different in that way.
Well, I find it insanely inspirational that you take what is such a horrible accident that happened and you turn it into something powerful, and you make people learn from your journey, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm so sorry that this happened to you. it is crazy that you had to suffer through that. But considering how you have been rising from the ashes, as your book title
Yes.
so nicely says,
Yes.
you have always been very openly sharing your experiences with your physical scars and your emotional journey that accompanies that. So could you maybe talk about how clothing has played a role in your personal transformation and healing?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been quite a journey with clothing. And um, when I was little, I had to wear face masks and pressure garments. I had all these weird things on top of my scars for years. And I had surgeries for about 10 years after my injury. So I was in and out of the hospital all the time, with another skin graft, more scars. Like it was just quite the journey. It wasn't a one and done kind of thing. So I would do a lot of hiding at first with clothes. Like everything had to be long sleeved. I would even sit on my hands so people couldn't see the scars on my hands. And I would walk around with my face down, like anything I could do to hide. And then I used makeup. Once I got to the point in, like 13, 14, they at the hospital taught me about corrective cosmetics, which I, you know, I love makeup today. It's so fun. It's just like this fun tool, but I used it for a long time to hide. It became a shield for me to actually face the world, just like a lot of clothes did. I never bought anything short sleeved or strapless or even like a tank top or anything. Everything had to cover my arms. And the thing about hiding, whether it's makeup, whether it's clothes, speaking to a lot of audiences, people come up to me afterwards and they say, well, I never wear skirts because I have this scar on my leg, or I haven't worn a swimsuit for 30 years because I need to hide my body or whatever. Even I had a woman she was in her late 70s who had a birthmark covering most of her face. And since she was very young, like probably 10, hasn't gone anywhere without makeup on. And she was like in her late 70s. And so what happens is when we use fashion in that way to hide, like shame grows. And we think, it's this tool because it gets you through the day. Like for me, it got me out the door. My parents were fantastic at not allowing me to stay home. My dad was severely burned. My little brother was severely burned. And so they were just like, it's time to get back to life. And I needed to find a way to do that. So I used fashion, I used makeup and clothes to do that. But what I discovered, and it was around high school, it was in high school. I I had this really huge moment where I was aware of that shame. And it hit me like a brick, but I was really happy I had that experience. I had my high school teacher, my high school English teacher, creative writing teacher, who also helped me write my book, by the way. He was my editor. It's just kind of a cool story that he still today is helping me learn and teaching me so much. But he had an assignment where he was teaching us about habits. And we fall into so many habits, don't we? Like we don't even realize we're doing it. And so we each had to, for a week, write down our habits during the day, like even down to, which hand you washed your face with, like all the habits. It was crazy, right? Like a typical day. And then what we did was we switched our day with someone else in the class. So a friend of mine and I switched, right? And then we had to like live out those person's habits. Like we had to do, like I had to show up to school early because she was she had practice early in the morning. So I had to get to school at 7 instead of 8 or whatever. But the hard part about who I switched it with, which was this eye-opening moment for me at like 17 or 18, 17 probably. She didn't wear makeup except mascara. And I couldn't go without my foundation because my scars there's a lot of redness in them. There's discoloration. And I was like, I can't go to school without foundation. Are you kidding me? And so I didn't follow the assignment. And I kind of felt like a fraud because I'm always like, I'm a stickler to like following rules. Um, but I felt like a fraud going to school. But what I realized is I tried to follow those rules and I couldn't leave the house without foundation on. And I was using that as this huge crutch. And although it like helped me face the day, it was building this huge amount of shame within me. I didn't really have anything to be shameful about, right? But because I was covering up though, and I was hiding, and I didn't want to talk about it, and nobody else knew how to talk about it. And that's just like where shame lives. And then fear someone is going to figure me out, fear someone is going to talk about it, fear someone's going to, my friend who I switch days with, like, why are you wearing foundation? I don't wear foundation. Man, that was a tough week for me. So we had to follow that for a whole week was our assignment. But that was like the first moment I really discovered what I was doing with my clothing, with my makeup, and just with fashion in general. I was using it to hide.
Yeah, it's like a two-sided coin, right? Because on one hand, it was a good tool for you to get out of the door, to get the first step of being back in society. But on the other hand, it also trickled into an unconscious, constant need of hiding, which doesn't even let you blossom for who the wonderful person that you are. So thank you so much for sharing this.
Even to accept yourself, like, how do you accept yourself if you're facing the world, falsely every day? And I guess what I'm grateful for is that I am not like that woman that I met in her 70s, still hiding. And my next step to like getting past that, which I said is all happened in layers and little bits at a time, and where I could find some comfort level. I was not ready yet in high school to like, here I am. I was not ready. But in college, I had a moment with a mirror that I had avoided. Like, I would look in the mirror enough to get my makeup on and my hair done, and I was done. I wouldn't look at my reflection, like when you're walking down the street and you can see your reflection just in a glass storefront. Wouldn't do that. I would avoid it. I just wanted my life to be back what it was, right? So I was delusional, I guess you could say. Had some delusion. I was hoping that would somehow go away. But I had this moment with a mirror, and I had already taken some steps to some self-healing, and figured some stuff out on my own. I did not have any guidance in that. My parents did not. They're just hardworking farmers. They didn't know what mental health was. They didn't know that we should go to counseling. We couldn't afford counseling if if they even wanted to. Um, but I was getting ready to go out with some friends, and before I put my makeup on, I decided I knew I needed something deeper to hang on to. I knew I needed to find something within myself that I could be proud of, things that I could really take throughout my day, that I could stand strong in who I was. I was trying to figure myself out. And a lot of times when we look in the mirror, what do we see? We see, our hair, our face. We might see, wrinkles. We might see acne. We might see those extra few pounds that just won't go away. We might see our height that maybe we're not happy with. I mean, we see all the things that we don't like about ourselves. That's just a thing. I think everybody does that. I think you just find those ways to tear yourself down, right? And I knew I needed something more because all I saw was my scars and how much I hated them. And that hate then trickles into the core of who we are. And I thought other people would hate me too, or, reject me more. So I took this moment, Jen, and I purposely looked in the mirror. I purposely examined every scar on my face, every rope, every twisted thing. I have scars on my ear, down my neck. I looked at them all. I examined them. I introduced myself to them for the first time. And I think until we do those things, like, acceptance can't happen. We have to really know and examine every part of our body, every part of who we are, find some way to accept it. And mine transferred into strength, that whole experience, right? And I decided in that moment that I would do my best to figure out how those scars, they're part of my story, but I didn't want them to dictate where I was headed, right? They're part of my past, but I had to somehow find a way to stand on who I was moving forward and not use them as a way to stop me. And so in that same moment, as I'm examining each scar and accepting my story, accepting who I am, I also decided to look deeper because I needed to find other words to define me. And so when I was in the hospital and many times in and out of the hospital, I would hear a lot of compliments about my eyes, that how beautiful they were. And so for me, that was like literally became a window to my soul that I could look into who I was. Found the beauty that people had seen in my eyes, and I thought, what else can I find there, right? And so I looked deep into who I was, and I remembered that I'm a caring, nurturing person. I'm a nurse, and so nurturing comes very easy to me. So I thought, man, I can stand on the fact that I'm compassionate. And then I was in college and doing well, and like I'm an intelligent woman. I could stand on that. I had built my faith along the way. God had shown up a lot of ways for me in the hardness of my story, in the darkness of my story. And I thought, man, I'm a child of God. I'm made for more because I am more because of my faith. And so that was something else I could stand on and build from. And then I had taken all that I had seen in my scars, and I had seen that strength and really decided to see a warrior within myself, even as a little girl. I had fought so much. And now in that moment, I was starting to fight to find me again. And that moment in the mirror was so pivotal to me. I remember every piece of it. I remember the feelings about myself starting to shift. Now, it took more time, it took more intentionality to really love who I am. It takes work, but that was the moment I could start to see something other than my injury, which was super powerful.
Yeah, sometimes it takes time to spend time with yourself to explore who you are, because we're oftentimes so shaped and formed of societal expectations, especially for us women. There is like a certain beauty standard that's in the world that we have to adhere to, or is expected for us to adhere to. So it's I can only imagine how difficult this difficult, but also very enlightening, how your story was and your pathway was.
I think it's just really important to find a way to even redefine your world so you beautifully fit in. I had to figure that out. I had to figure out my own definition of beauty because we're all different. We can all stand in a line. How many billion of us there are in the world, and nobody's alike. And so how can we have one definition of what beauty really is? We just can't. So you find one that works for you so you can stand in who you are. And when we love ourselves, we accept ourselves, that's what people are attracted to, is that confidence, that peace and calm within ourselves. That's what beauty really is. And so figuring out what that works, it works for you, I think is an important key to success. And it was one of the things that got me to like pivotal part. And the reason why I wrote the book and the end of the book is because I learned how to love myself enough to put myself in a state beauty pageant. And I laugh because it still is like, I am not. First of all, I'm a pig farmer from Iowa, so it's not your typical beauty queen. But when I was little on that farm, I wanted to be Miss America. Like I wanted to be on the Miss America stage. I was in just loved, like it lit me up to watch that every year and wanted to be a part of that. And I even dressed up like her. So I would wear this hand-me-down little gown thing I got probably from an aunt, or I don't even know, and this taffeta pink gown that I had and probably wore a million times. It was probably way too big for me and hung off of me. And then I would make a toilet paper sash and a tinfoil crown my mom would help me make, right? Because it's all we had. And I would dress up as Miss America and like just feel like the belle of the ball. And about a couple years after my injury, I remember watching it again on TV for the first time, and I'm sure it was a couple years. And I remember that dream, like when we're meant to do something, it like comes, right? It comes to us. Any kind of calling, any kind of something that we are meant to experience, it just pops up. And I remember it popping up again, like, oh my gosh, I want to wear a gown like that. Oh my gosh, I want to be on a stage like that. I want the fanfare, the hair, like all of it. I wanted all of it. And it was like in that same instant, I looked down at my hands, my scars all over my body, and I thought, well, that's never going to happen for me, because none of those women had any scars. And growing up, even I feel even today, like every TV show or movie, it's like the bad guy that has scars, that evil character, that one with something very wrong with them, right? Never a beauty queen, never even a leading lady has scars on them. And so for me, I was constantly reminded of how there was something wrong with me. So that dream shattered when I was a kid, and I never even thought twice about picking it up again until I had been speaking for a few years. And one of my programs I call Flawless, and it's about teaching women, and I use mirrors, teaching women to see themselves the way God sees them, the way you were created to be, and love who you are. Forgive yourself where you need forgiven. Just find this level of acceptance and love for yourself, and how powerful that is. And so I'm telling audiences of women that I see myself as flawless. And in the same in the same weeks, I'm feeling this push to compete in a pageant again. So this was in 2018. It's called the Mrs. America system. And so it's for women who are married and of all ages. And it's an opportunity for women to compete in beauty pageants once they've outgrown, past that Miss America age limit. And so I thought, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I was in my late 40s. Like, why would I want to be in a pageant? I'm good. Like, I'm so good with myself. I have nothing to prove. And then it kept popping up, and I'm like, oh, damn it. I can't keep pushing it away. I don't, well, because it's a swimsuit. I have to wear a swimsuit on stage. And wearing a swimsuit as a little girl, especially after the fire, was horrible. It's where I heard the worst, like, ooh, gross, and that's nasty, and kids would swim away. And being in a swimsuit was really hard for me. And so revealing my scars in any way, but you can't hide very well. I couldn't do my magic of hiding in a swimsuit. I just didn't get in it. So I don't need that. And I pushed it away, but it kept popping up, for 8 or 9 months, this like idea of being in the Mrs. Colorado pageant kept popping up. And so I did it. Like, I had this, I don't know if you call it like this vision or something in my mind's eye that showed me and about 40 women on stage. Like, it was a literal vision of me and 40 women on stage, and we were all in our gowns. And I looked around, and I didn't see me as that scarred lady in the middle of everybody. When I looked around, I saw their pain. I saw their stories. I saw their fight, and I saw their triumph. I saw their scars. And it reminded me that scars are scars. We all have a story. We all know what pain is, and we all have scars left from them, right? And so that, to me, gave me permission. I was one of them. And in 2019 and in 2020 and in 2021, I competed in the Mrs. Colorado pageant in Denver. It was this beautiful venue and this theater and this gorgeous stage. And after 3 years, I won the dang thing, and I was crowned Mrs. Colorado. Right? And miracles can happen, people. They can happen. It was so magical, and I just kept pushing through. In 2019 or 2020, I made the top. I was a semifinalist. And the competitive girl in me is like, I can go a little further. And I had a lot to learn. Talk about fashion, talk about, like, I had to step up my game. I had to get some professionals on board to help me do all the things. It was so fun. It was so fun to wear all the things, right? It was just so fun to be in that middle of that glamour part of fashion. It was fantastic. And it fed that little broken girl in me that I didn't know she needed fed that, but it really did. And it honored the woman that I've become. It was fantastic. And then along with my crown, just before I was crowned the winner, and I competed with almost 40 women each year. So it's not a small one. It's a really hard one to win. But I also won, this is even more magical in some ways, is I won best in swimsuit. And not because I know, right? And not because I was like the skinniest or the fittest or anything like that. It's because I had learned how to love myself enough and really love and accept the skin that I was in, that the judges received that. They understood that. And I think it just proves, it validates that we all already know, but for some reason we deny, is that when we feed love to ourselves, when we really take care of ourselves and accept ourselves, that like our beauty shines from within. And I think my story validates all of that. And I think it's something everyone needs to hear, which is why I wrote my book, Beauty from Ashes, transforming wounds into wisdom, scars into stars. And if I can do it, like seriously, anybody can.
Well, I'm having goosebumps everywhere. I'm certain the audience will feel the same way. Danette, thank you so much for sharing that. It must be not very easy to relive it when you also speak about it again and again. And I'm just very grateful to have you here today and we can talk about this. And also how perfectly you can talk about the fashion aspect of things. So I'm safe to assume that your relationship with clothing has changed since then.
I just wear what I feel good in, and I don't necessarily think about, is there sleeves, is there not, what does it reveal, what does it show? But I do have to say that sometimes our inner strength webs and ebbs and flows, right?
Yes.
There's some days where I just don't feel like I can even go to the grocery store and feel as strong as I do other days. And so I just allow myself to feel what I'm feeling, to be where I'm at that day, and to honor that and be okay with that. But shame doesn't live anywhere in me anymore. There's no room for it because I've learned how to honor myself in that way.
That's a very good point to make because I think a lot of people tend to, especially when we're talking about body positivity and all of self-love, that a lot of people think, even I have that with my one-on-one clients, a lot of people think that they have to accept it and then just love themselves unconditionally, day in, day out, at night, whatever. But yes, we should love ourselves unconditionally. That's true. Ignore feelings which are so vital to our emotional and mental flexibility. You need to feel your feelings. It's so important. It's so important to not burn out and be mentally healthy. But it is also, what you say is so important, to not hate yourself and be shameful of yourself anymore when you look into the mirror. And everyone can relate to that. I mean, I fluctuate in my weight. That's one of my points where I always feel quite self-conscious, or I have rosacea. So I tend to, sometimes when I'm very emotionally loaded, I am red like a tomato. Like comments from, wow, you look amazing, to, oh, why don't you color your hair because I'm already prematurely graying. But it's kind of like, it takes a lot of time to accept, also especially if you fluctuate in weight. You have to accept yourself in each stage of the weight fluctuation, and it's sometimes harder and sometimes it's easier. But going through this entire process and how my clothes can help me to either hide certain things that I don't want to feel like I need to see, and otherwise then push other things that I should focus on more. Like, as an example, if I feel like, oh, I'm very bloated today, I wear wider clothes around that. But I then still try to make my face shine because, I don't know, I like my lipstick today. So it's always important to see like the positive things, but you don't have to force yourself into something because then it's also not right. So I'm grateful that you spoke to that it's important to just find the right balance. And if you're not feeling your best, then you don't. And then you just go on, you survive, and you're fine. And that's the most important thing, I think, that I want to contribute to this conversation. So yeah, thank you
Well,
so
and I
much.
think that in itself is a form of self-love, isn't it? Honoring where you're at, honoring that, oh, I don't feel great today, or I'm having this body issue or whatever, but honoring it and accepting it for what it is. And then sometimes like it's things like you can make changes, or you can like, oh, I'm bloated because of this, or I'm, you can kind of figure those things out. But I love what you said about, oh, my lipstick looks great today, or my hair looks great today, or something like that. Finding something deeper to hang on to, I think, is so important, so that you can attack your day with the same kind of just self-love. And so I just honor where you're at. And I think that is a form of self-love. Even if you're feeling sad, or if you're not feeling super strong today, doesn't mean you don't love yourself. It just means that you're honoring yourself where you're at. And which in my mind is a form of self-love.
Yeah. And I also like what you said, that, boiling it down to what's deeper in there, like what's further, what's underneath the skin, what's in our heart, what's in our mind, what defines us. And for me, as an example, fashion is like the perfect tool for a reflection of identity. That's always what I say. It's important that what you wear reflects the person you are in that moment, in that given moment. And struggling with your self-image, especially when it doesn't align to societal expectation, can be really, really hard sometimes. So my question for you is, how has fashion helped you to showcase your personality and values in certain
Oh
moments?
man. I think that's like for anybody. Like there are things that I'm super drawn to. I like that I know, like cuts of clothes or things that make me just feel really good about myself and my body, different colors that I feel vibrant in. And I can tell when, how I feel by kind of what because sometimes I do just want to be like, just wear black and just go stand in the corner, and I think that's okay. I think I choose things where I'm at, and when I'm on stage, I like to wear brighter colors. I like to be vibrant, but some days I just want to go to the grocery store and not talk to anybody and get my stuff done, and I'm good there too. It's just, I don't know. I use clothes as a way to just make me be me, and not, and then when I'm doing things like, as a former queen now, I get to go to a lot of different events and support women that are competing. And so I get to dress up in that kind of glamour stuff, which I absolutely love. That's just not my everyday, but a couple of times a year, it's super fun too. So still get to play that role and be the glamour queen at times too. So it feeds lots of different parts of me. And I think it's really important to use the fashion that speaks to you. And there's so many different options out there. And I think just be proud of that. Like, this is my fashion. It might be totally different than yours, but it makes me feel good. It makes me feel strong in who I am. And I think it reflects my personality. And isn't that great that we all have those options?
I love what you just said, that because we've been talking a lot about like how day to day can be different, and it kind of reminded me back to where I talked with a social psychologist, and it was fascinating because he spoke to the fact that our identity is shaped by all of the identities that are within us, and our identity is an amalgamation of a big set of identities that we step in and out depending on the role and the surroundings we're playing. So it's like fading in and out, and sometimes more, sometimes less, but it's like it's super adaptive. It's kind of beautiful how fashion can adapt to every single facet of who we are, and it makes us just so multifaceted and so much more than just who we are, but also who we want to be. So it gives us humans more liberty if we think about the broader aspect of identity and the broader aspect of self-love, that there is room for us to just be who we want to be. And it doesn't need to necessarily be forced by a beauty standard or expectations around us. We can just be who we are in the moment as we want to be. So, yeah, it's absolutely fascinating.
Isn't that great? We're deeper than just one definition or one type of fashion. Like, we're just multifaceted in that way. I'm an athlete too, so a lot of times when I'm working just from home, I'm in my running gear and maybe a little sweaty, and that's okay. Because I love that part of me too, right? I love that I can be an athlete and my hair doesn't, I'm in a ponytail and no makeup, but it's also part of who I am.
Yeah. I think it's quite relieving to think about the aspect of it is so much deeper, as you said, it's so much deeper. And there is not this overarching pressure that we need to obey the beauty standards of the industries that constantly change anyway. So it's like you cannot keep up with that anyway. And then if you are even slightly different, you fall out of that roster also. So it's so nice to know that you're just so much more than what society expects you to be. And that's such a powerful thing to do as well. And that's also what I want for the audience or the listeners to take away from it. You are perfect the way you are. Even in your imperfections, you're perfect who you are. And even if you feel like you've only been able to give 40% in your day, if you gave 40% when you only had 40% to give, you gave 100. So never ever put yourself down because you have to adjust your level of emotional or mental flexibility or physical. If you feel like, you're not having a good day because you went running the other day before and your legs are aching, then you don't have to go running again today. So there's
Oh,
some,
yeah, I do. That's the good kind of pain, Jen. That's the good kind of pain. I'll take that all the time. I'm a little crazy too. I love that you said, so I have a t-shirt that I actually got through our pageant system because our director is amazing and embraces our differences. And it says perfectly imperfect. And it's one of my most favorite sayings because we are made perfectly. I don't like the word perfect. I hardly ever use it because I think it's an impossible expectation for anybody to live up to. But I will always be perfectly imperfect just the way I am, trying to be better today than I was yesterday, right? Always a work in progress. Always going to be imperfect, but I'm perfectly imperfect where I'm at right now today. And I can accept that. And I think if everybody can accept where they're at and wherever they're at, doing the work to love themselves a little bit more, because that's where our inner peace, our inner calm comes from. And when you have inner peace and inner love, there's no room for hate. There's no room for judgment. When you can practice fully accepting yourself, fully accepting other people will come easier. And then doesn't that make this world collectively a better place to live? If we can all work on this, literally, that's
yeah,
where it all starts.
it's liberating too. That's also my twist on things when I think about sustainability as an example, which is a really big factor of what we discuss usually on the podcast or in general with my colleagues, with my fashion psychology colleagues and fashion design world. We always talk about sustainability. But I think, yes, we need to, of course, collectively as a society work towards a goal to get that fixed. But it starts here. It starts here. It starts with understanding. It starts with who you are. It starts like a lot of people always like the term of retail therapy. I don't like that because I think it's a very personal opinion of mine, but I think just to empty your feelings just by over purchasing and it's then going to sit in your closet for years on end, never been worn, tags on still, it's just not going to benefit you, nor your wallet, nor the society as an aspect. So it starts with you. It starts within here. And the more happier or the more in tune you are with your needs and with you, who you are, the less outside stuff you need. And fashion or clothing more needs to actually start for people to become more of a tool. If you want to shed a layer of identity that does not suit you anymore, you have to find ways to let that go. And sometimes when we try to go into a transition of being, let's say, a scared little girl who doesn't really feel embracing herself much to going into this powerful, strong, independent woman, sometimes we need to let go of things and actually use fashion as a tool to shed that layer, literally and figuratively,
Yeah.
and then find something new that we can rise from the ashes to come back to your book and speak to a rebirth. So I think just it's such a beautiful thing, and I'm just very grateful that you've been talking with me today because it's so insightful to see like how not only we as a human are so much more than what we look like, but also how beautiful we are when we radiate, when we step into the true person who we want to be or are becoming. So yeah.
Well, I adore you and I adore all the things that you do. So it's such an honor to be on here sharing my story and what I've learned. I just really feel like it's, it starts within. Like you can't project anything, and whatever trend you're wearing, it may be the most beautiful thing, on a mannequin in the store. But if you haven't found a way to accept and love yourself, any trend or any piece of clothing isn't really going to accept you because it won't be enough. If you aren't enough for you, no piece of clothing. It may help you in a moment, it may help you get through a party, but it's not going to really help you. I mean, in the long run, it has to be both, right? You find things you look good in that accentuate your body, that make you feel good, but in conjunction with the fact that we all have work we need to do within ourselves.
Yeah, it is an unbreakable exchange between inside and outside. It's always the connection in between. So it's always, how do you feel? Who are you? What do you need? And then how can clothing serve you? And sometimes if you like, that's what I did in my research. When we look at like having to go into very tough situations, like let's say you are working in a very corporate environment and you have like a very tough conversation ahead of you, like, I don't know, performance review, and you really want to do well, or but you know that your boss doesn't really support you or doesn't really appreciate the work you've been doing or whatever. Let's figure that moment for a second. What can you wear to support you as who you are and who you accept yourself with, but also knowing your weaknesses, that you are nervous, that you are worried, that you don't want the emotions to get the better of you in that moment when you need to. What can you wear to support that as well? So it's this interchanging. You need to pick what you want to wear because you feel confident and accepting of who you are, but also what can the clothes serve you to be best performing in that moment. And that means that you might need to wear a suit
100%.
that gives you a shield of armor, right? I mean, I can only imagine your makeup that was your shield of armor every single day when you stepped out. It was just a way of getting you composed enough to go and feel some sort of acceptance. And that's the power of beauty and beauty articles, fashion, clothing that can help you with that. And it's beautiful to see how you are stepping in and you stepping into that relationship with your clothes that you wear. As an example, for listeners who are not watching this episode, but Danette is wearing an absolutely gorgeous royal blue sweater. And it's absolutely brightening her eyes, and she's just absolutely vibrating energy and
Thank
positivity in
you.
front of me. So it's just, you step into that, and it's just beautiful to see.
It's, yeah, in fashion is, and I love what you just said. And I love that we have these options to make us feel in those moments where we need to be empowered or we need to feel our best. Isn't it great that we have these things? And I don't have to wear makeup every day, but like I have it on now because it makes me feel so put together and it makes me feel ready. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's understanding how you feel about it, where your feelings are attached to it. No longer hide behind it. I use it because it makes me feel put together and ready and beautiful. But I don't have to have it anymore. So there's this difference in where my feelings are at around it, and then how I'm using those tools today versus how I used them 30-40 years ago, right? And so that's just the difference. They're there for the taking, but remembering your feelings around them, I think, is what's empowering.
Wow. Thank you so much. You are hitting out zingers. Wow. I have so much already for advice and guidance for my listeners. I hope that like I feel like ready to go out and tackle the day. It's fantastic. I have a question for you. For those facing their own struggles with self-image, confidence, whatever it may be around their looks, what advice would you give them about using fashion as a way to build the resilience and then to transform that.
What my suggestion is, especially if someone, and like I said, when I speak to audiences, I always have someone come up and tell me their insecurity that they're hiding. Whatever that is. Lots of different stories around it. And my advice to them, when someone is using fashion, whether it's clothing or makeup, jewelry, whatever it is, to hide something, is to take a moment every day. Well, first of all, look in the mirror, right? And try and find acceptance. But even step out when you're using something as a crutch, step outside, even in little moments without it, to build that understanding that the world isn't going to crumble around you if you aren't using that as your crutch. And like for me, I wouldn't wear makeup. I wouldn't answer the door. Like if the UPS guy came and needed a signature or something, I would hide in the closet. I was so afraid because I had experienced so much rejection. I had to reteach myself that it's not always going to be that way. And so it's not always the worst case scenario. And I had to take little baby steps, like even mowing the lawn without makeup on, or going on a run without makeup on, or going into the grocery store. And I actually had a moment, I had been praying about this. This was in my 30s. I had been praying about being able to go more and more without makeup. And careful what you pray for, because you'll probably get an opportunity to use it. But I was baking something, getting ready to bake something at home, and my kids were going to get off the bus. And anyway, I needed eggs or something. And the store is about a 10-minute drive away. And I thought, well, I have just enough time before the kids get off the bus. They were really young. I'm like, I'm just going to go to the store and get my eggs. And then, right. And so I can keep baking. And I got to the store and I had reached over to get my purse out of the front seat, and I had seen my reflection in the rearview mirror, and I didn't have any makeup on. Like I just was going about my day in the house, and so I was in my safe place. I didn't even think about it. And I didn't have any time to run back home. I mean, I thought about it, like those instincts within us. I thought about, well, if I just go home, throw my makeup on, and I didn't have time. And so I said, well, this is ridiculous. I need to pull up my big girl pants. and 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 I took the opportunity, right? To me, I like, okay, God, you set this up. I guess let's do this. And I went to the grocery store, and I got my things, and I did check out and pay. I didn't like steal them and run away. I like checked out and had a conversation with the person, checking me out and stuff. And it was that moment that was almost a forced moment. Like I had been praying for it, but yeah, I didn't want to do it. I wouldn't have done that on my own, I don't think, in other situations. But it built my strength to know that the walls weren't going to crumble around me. And I actually had some really lovely engagements with people as I did that, and I survived. And so that gave me, those moments will teach you that it's going to be okay. That the world, there is good out there to accept us, to meet us, to greet us. And the more I did those things, the more power I had, the more shame disappeared, the more I could just like stand in my own power, right? And that's my biggest suggestion, is to find those little moments. Maybe God will find them for you, but to find those little moments to just put yourself out there, to wear a short skirt and show that scar on your leg, or to go enjoy the pool with your kids or your grandkids in that bathing suit and not care and not worry about it and survive it, and know that you deserve that experience. You deserve it.
Yeah. I think what you just said, I also want to touch upon that a little bit, because it's really highly resonating. It's not only like, yes, it's all coming from a place of self-acceptance and testing waters and trying to push yourself out of your comfort zone, literally. But it's also about stopping to care too much about what the world around you thinks, because they put so much expectations on us people anyway, that we will never be able to uphold that standard. Like, I think it's so important for everyone who's listening to look at people who are an inspiration to you and just try to thrive, to take away from what the inspiration where that comes from. Why are you inspired by that person? I just had to think about while you were talking, like, of course, you are one of the massive inspirations to many people out there, I'm certain. But also, as an example, someone who was always seen as the perfect beauty standard woman, sex appeal, whatever, Pamela Anderson. She now has started to embrace her no makeup, just embracing who she is, how she looks, how nature is given her. And she goes even on the red carpet without makeup, which is absolutely unheard of. Like, in the
Right.
Hollywood industry, it's absolutely unfathomable for people to even consider like a woman not wearing makeup. Even men wear makeup on the red carpet. So I just love how people are stepping more and more out there into their true self and don't caring as much about what other people think anymore, because it's not like the most important thing that you should care about is that you care about what you think of yourself. That's the most important thing.
And
Everything
how
else.
you're treating the world, and how, I think it's more the imprint we leave on people in their spirits and in their hearts and their minds, right? Being kind to people, of course. I mean, I think it just goes down to those basic things that we all already know, but we get caught up in what the mirror tries to tell us or what society tries to tell us, right? This fake superficial world that we tend to live in. But it really is, when you think about your friendships, the people that are always excited to see you and be around you, it's not because you're always wearing the right clothes or you have the perfect make. It's none of that. It's not because you're this perfect size 2 or whatever the perfect size is these days. I don't even know. But it's not any of that. It's because of the person you are. It's because of the imprint you leave within them that they want more of. And we just need to remember that. And to, even as you're standing in front of the mirror, remind yourself, well, my hair didn't turn out perfect today and my makeup's a little jacked, and it's not all perfect, but I know I can still make that positive impression on the people that I need to, the people that cross my path. And that's really where our power comes from. That's really where our value sits within us,
Mm.
is the impression we make on ourselves, and then that resonates with other people.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing as well to think about, like kindness and what you bring out into the world. It always comes back to you tenfold, right? So if you're like wonderful and kind and you help an old lady across the street, it comes back to you tenfold in the best way possible. So, and then if you are even more in tune with who you are and how you can accept yourself and you don't care as much about what other people think, easier said than done, to be fair. I get that. But
Yeah.
it's just such an important thing to embark on the journey of self-love. It's part of it. So yeah, thank you so much, Danette. I could talk with you like all day, but time is starting to run
We need
out.
to go to coffee. Like, can I just fly over there and we'll just go to coffee or something? I think that's
Yeah,
what I need.
you're always welcome. You're always welcome for a nice coffee or tea in London.
Sorry. Yes. Which I am more of a tea drinker than I am coffee. I'm just so used to everybody else drinks coffee, not me.
Oh,
Maybe
perfect.
I
We can
belong
drink
there.
tea over here then. So, before we wrap up, I would like to ask you if there is one message, one single message that you would like our listeners to take away from the story, from your story and your approach to fashion. What would it be?
Is to just take the time to know you. Take the time to find beauty within yourself and live there. That's your light. That's your impact. And everything else just should add to that. Whatever you're donning today, right? It should just add to that, and focus on that light. Focus on what you're bringing, whether it's wisdom. There's value in every story, and everybody has one, and pour into that.
Thank you so much for sharing this and sharing your insights and experiences with us today. It's absolutely remarkable. So, as you well know, we do have a closing tradition in this podcast that every episode we challenge our listeners to facilitate growth, intentionality, and awareness. Given your focus on embracing who you are, loving yourself, this whole building resilience journey, What is your Style My Mind challenge today, which we can encourage our listeners to take on this journey of self-love and embracing who you are?
Well, mine goes back to my mirror moment, my many mirror moments along the way. And I know after speaking to a lot of audiences and my one-on-one coaching that I do, and just even talking to my friends, a lot of people tend to avoid the mirror. So my challenge is for everyone to work on spending more and more time in front of the mirror. And to add to that challenge is to do it naked, to accept, to see where we're at, because as we grow, as we age, our body changes too. And that's where insecurity and shame can really live. So I encourage my challenges to start with just looking at yourself for a full minute, really looking at it, looking at yourself, accepting the things that maybe you don't love, that you would change if you had that magic wand, right? Those things you would change. But then before you walk away from the mirror, to take something that you love and adore about yourself. Or maybe it's 3 things, but take something away that you love and adore about yourself that you can really bring with you throughout the day, because that's where our love and our power for ourselves lives. And then every week I want you to add another minute and add another minute and see how many minutes you can do.
That is, like, I'm seriously having goosebumps over here. That is such a fantastic challenge. And I know it will be challenging for most of the listeners that are listening and watching. So thank you so much for sharing that challenge. If you are doing this challenge and you notice any changes or you notice any positive impact on it, which I'm certain it will, if you feel comfortable enough and you want to share your thoughts under the hashtag Style My Mind challenge so we can see and share. Lastly, where can our audience learn more about you, your work, and especially your book, Beauty from the Ashes?
Well, my book, you can currently buy it at my bookbaby.com. That's where you can currently buy it. That's my publisher, but it will be on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the other major bookstores. So it's called Beauty from Ashes, Transforming Wounds into Wisdom, Scars into Stars. You can also find there's a link on my website, which is beautyfromashesspeaker.com, and you can learn everything about me on there. So Danette Beauty from Ashes, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well. So
fantastic. I will make sure to link all of that in our info box as well. I'm also going to link the book. So thank you again for your time. I know time is precious, and I'm very grateful for this very in-depth conversation, very honest and open conversation. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Jen. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. Do all of those beautiful things. Follow us on all of our social media channels and visit our website for more insightful content. Always keep your head held high. Embrace your journey to empowerment, to who you are, and be open to styling your mind. Thank you so much.